please?
Yes.
Ward?
Here.
Butler?
Here.
Armstrong?
Here.
Knopfinger?
Here.
Fisher?
Here.
Essing?
Here.
McNatt?
Here. And is there anyone to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today from the Student Council?
Come on up to the... Yep.
Hello, I'm Edward Andrews, and I'll lead you through the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know you stated your name a little bit earlier, but could you repeat it and tell us what grade you're in and what your Student Council is doing?
I'm Edward Andrews, a sophomore here at WCHS.
I'm Melissa Martin, I'm a senior here. I'm Erica Shangrad, I'm a senior here.
Is there any updates on Student Council?
Here. I'm sorry. So this evening I have a brief update on Student Council and what's been going on with organization and planning. We are currently planning a Hoops for Hope basketball game against Morton on Friday, March 23rd. To promote this event, we have been selling white t-shirts to the students to be worn at the game. Other events currently being organized by Student Council are the St. Jude Week and the Vice Versa Dance. St. Jude Week will be held the following week, February 26th through March 2nd, with more events to be determined throughout this week. Vice Versa will be held Saturday succeeding this week, March 3rd. The theme for this dance will be spring and floral-like, mainly to kick in the spring. Currently, these events are the most pressing going on with Student Council.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any questions for the Student Council members?
Just one, I'm behind. Erica, are you back in your home all renovated again?
It needs to be knocked down, but, so no.
Still a work in progress.
Huh?
Still a work in progress.
Yeah,
We wish you the best.
thank you.
Well, thank you for coming tonight. And you can
Thank
stay
you.
if you'd like, or you can leave if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Free to stay.
Okay, we are going to be opening up for a public hearing for the issuance of working cash bond funds. And Dr. Sanders, could you give us a little bit of background about that?
Sure, I'll get us started. We're required to conduct a public hearing for the issuance of working cash fund bonds. I've got a procedure sheet here. I just briefly speak on two items. Number one, that is our facilities committee goal. That's been a goal of this board for the last two board cycles. We've known that our enrollment is going to grow over 1,500, and so over the last 3 years, the Finance and Facilities Committee has worked to come up with a plan for an expansion project here to accommodate the student enrollment. The second one, the second bullet point there is basically, I stole it straight from Ms. Bradford's FAQ that was put out a couple months ago in regards to where we're at with a fine arts edition. So that is there. The next part of the hearing, I'm going to turn over to Board President. She'll conduct the actual hearing portion, take comments from those that would wish to make comments in regards to the issuance of bonds.
Okay, first off, I will ask if there's any additional comments from the board members from the Board of Education. Okay. There's none. I'm moving on to 2. Has there been any written testimony concerning the issuance of working cash fund bonds to the school?
We've not received any.
Okay, having none. Then I'll ask if there's anyone present that would wish to make comments on the issuance of working cash fund bonds in the audience. Okay, I guess there's none. And so at that point, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
And second, and then we need a roll call, please.
Butler?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
McNatt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes. Public hearing is closed, and we'll go on to the normal board meeting. Is there any visitors and correspondents that would like to address the board tonight? Okay, having none, we're going to move on to what would be reports. Okay. Reports would be English departments.
Let me get you queued up here. Grab her. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. I'm Jennifer Reiser, and I thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share with you some of the exciting things that are going on in the English department. Together we have 223 years of teaching experience, and the knowledge, excitement, and passion our teachers bring to their content is truly inspiring. I've included two different slides that indicate the specific courses that teachers are teaching, but the collaboration that we have among our teachers is very awesome. The teachers collaborate not only between common courses that they teach, but between sequential courses as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that collaboration in a few slides. So English 1 students can take English 1 Comp and Lit, English 1 or English 1 Honors. Sophomore students take English 2 Speech or English 2 Speech Honors. English 3 students take American Studies, English 3, or English 3 AP. Last year was the first year that we introduced English 3 as an AP course. Senior year, there are quite a number of electives that students can take. Anything from British literature and mythology to more writing-intensive courses like comp, creative writing, and journalism. So there's a wide variety for students to find something that they're interested in. We've had a great deal of student success. 64% of our English 3 Honors AP students passed the AP exam, which led to WCHS being named to the AP Honor Roll. This was the first year that we offered AP as a course, so to have 64% in the first year is really great. 83 Comp 1 Honors students received dual credit first semester, and 54% of our students met or exceeded ELA standards on the SAT. That's compared to 40% statewide. Again, with the SAT, this was the first year WCHS students had taken the SAT. We just came from an amazing weekend with speech. They have made school history for the second time in 2 weeks. And they placed second in sectionals, and they were 1 point away from first place. 6 categories will be moving on to the state competition on Saturday. In journalism last spring, we had an IHSA sectional first place finish for the second year in a row, and Peter Rest won state in infographics for the IHSA. Senior Olivia Bennett has published her first novel. Her novel, poem, and short story have been selected by Scholastic to continue in a national contest. So quite a number of accolades for our students. Our teachers are lifelong learners, as we hope to inspire our students to be. So professional development is very important to us. 9 English teachers are being trained in Project CHRIS, which is works to help students to understand the more metacognitive approach to their own learning. 4 teachers have been trained in AP instruction. 2 more will attend this summer. Mrs. Dayhoff and Mr. Parrott attended AP workshop for the second summer this past year. Lauren Metz has published lessons for seniors in high school and freshmen in college that are available to teachers in both Missouri and Illinois. And Dan Zaire has spoken at ISU's T21 conference. He also has been interviewed by the HuffPost for his work in the classroom. Teachers are involved in a number of different committees within the school as well. 4 English teachers are on the school-wide writing committee. We also have representation on the technology, school improvement, professional development, and para committees. So being involved within the school is very important to all of us. One of our strengths is collaboration. We've worked very hard to create create both horizontal and vertical course alignment. Honors and standards teachers work to align their courses. English 3 teachers work with history teachers so that their major novels that they're reading align to the time period that they're studying in their history course. As English teachers, we have a unique opportunity to provide our students with meaningful writing experiences. So they're not just writing for their teacher as their audience, but they have a much wider audience. One of the ways that we have done that is creative writing students partnered with students from John L. Henze. Creative writing students wrote children's stories, and then the children, elementary school children, illustrated them. And then they got together and they shared, and the collaboration was pretty awesome. We also have Bloom, where the students write for a literary magazine, and they can take pieces that they've written in their English course or pieces that they've written on their own and enter it to be published in this literary magazine. We have 2 major goals in the English department for this year. One of the goals is SAT preparation, and the other is to implement strategic, consistent writing instruction across the curriculum. Those go hand in hand. Our teachers have taken the SAT. We have pulled out the skills and identified where we are teaching those skills within our curriculum. Teachers are using tools like Khan Academy to help with implementation of some of these skills and strategies. We are making sure that students are hit at each level with some of the strategies that will help support not only performance on standardized tests like SAT, but skills that are just going to be important to them, regardless of what career they go into, is the communications. One of the areas that we continue to work on is tackling nonfiction. And our teachers have added nonfiction to every unit, but we also have begun to reach out to other departments to make them aware of the types of nonfiction questions that students will be introduced to on the standardized tests, different standardized tests, especially SAT. Students are asked to read graphs, charts, and these are things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So it's been great to begin that collaboration and that discussion, and I think that's going to go very far. Our students have 4 possibilities of earning college credit. They can take AP English 3, which was introduced last year. They can take AP World Literature, which is new this year. And they can take Comp 110 and Comp 111. We also have been working on aligning all of our classes with SAT AP benchmark. By the fall of 2019, the majority of English teachers will have been trained in AP instruction. And again, this idea is not so much to teach to a test. It's to provide them meaningful skills that are critical regardless of the area that they're going to enter as a profession. Among some of the other opportunities and programs we've been working on, English 2 Honors is now a pre-AP course. English 1 will be working on becoming a pre-AP course within the next year. And we really are maximizing the impact, or working to maximize the impact the college prep reading course has. We have identified students that are on the bubble, that are not quite meeting or are just meeting state standards, and we're working to provide them additional support to bump them to that next level. Among some of the other opportunities as far as financial that we have had, our 9-year-old Mac lab was replaced this year with new Macs. The journalism program received a $1,000 grant from the Illinois Press Foundation, and we're looking to add more Chromebooks specifically for the comp courses. One of the challenges that we have is to continue to prepare students for different state tests. This year it's SAT, but we're never exactly sure if that might go back to ACT or stay with SAT. So regardless, our goal is to target students who are just approaching or have just made standards, and again, provide them the services that they need, the additional support they need to bring them and all of the students to the next level. One of the challenges is as student enrollment grows. We're faced with trying to really adequately give students that support. And so one thing that the English teachers are very interested in and that we're looking into is exploring reading, writing lab opportunities. So that's something that we've been continuing to talk to, especially understanding the fact that it's exciting, school enrollment is growing, but it does pose some challenges. So in this very short period of time, I've given you just a little insight into what we are doing within the English curriculum, and it's exciting to hear the engaging conversations that are taking place with our future leaders. So I thank you for your support for us, for our students, and if you have any questions.
Not a question as much as a comment. I know this past year we really focused on challenging our very capable students, AP courses, honors courses, and I fully support that. But as you indicated, at the same time, we can't ignore that lower level of students. Those are the ones that are capable of raising our basic standardized test scores because they have room for growth as long as we can identify what they need and supply it to them. So the fact that you are concentrating and not overlooking those students whose skills still need to be developed, I think is very important in our overall looking at the needs of our students and our ability to progress.
Yeah, thank you. It has been something that is important to all of us as teachers to identify those students, looking at what classes are they taking, as far as placement and things. And yeah, that is one of our major goals, to bring them up, boost them up. Yeah.
And it's exciting to do that and see what you can accomplish.
Absolutely.
You got the right button.
Absolutely.
Regarding the AP courses, do the majority of the kids take the AP test?
I'm
What
not.
percentage do you think actually?
Last year, I don't have the
The
exact
majority of
percent.
the English students did, but some of the other areas they don't. So for example, the American government, the APS class, that's a semester class. So if I took that first semester and I don't have to take the AP exam until May, I may opt not to.
I just have heard the kids are a little intimidated sometimes, and it's kind of hard to encourage them to
We
take
had
the
really
test.
good participation last year.
For the SAT test, because it seems like there's a lot of attention to preparing for that and whatever else might come, like the ACT maybe when we potentially switch. So is there much of a writing component on that, or it is?
Yeah,
So they
there
do
is
the writing?
Yes, there is a writing component on the SAT, and it's a rhetorical analysis. They read another piece of literature and analyze it, and it aligns with the AP test. It aligns with what we are teaching already our students to do. So it's actually very exciting, the style of writing that the SAT asks them to do, because it's what we are all working on. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's your first year as department chair, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
And then I see there's a bunch of English teachers here, so that's very nice to see you guys here as well.
Well, thank you for coming, and I do appreciate you showing the broad choices of classes that the students can choose from, so they're just not taking English 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So they can branch out into the areas that they're interested in. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6.2, Dean's Report.
You have the usual battery of Dean's reports. We've got the enrollment report, the OSS report, and the care report. If you have any questions. If not, we're good.
Dr. Kramer, one thing, I saw the enrollment broken down by last year's, but I didn't have last month's copy or so forth. Is our enrollment basically holding steady as the academic year progresses? Because some years more people move out and there can be not a significant, but a noticeable increase or drop.
We usually see a drop right after Christmas break because we have midterm graduates who are leaving our roles.
But that's
And so-
positive.
Yes, it is. I think that's the only thing we really would note this year, because it looked like 20, 25 students. I don't have that.
No, and we got that information, so I knew about graduation. I just didn't know if, other than that mid-year graduation, if our enrollment was fluctuating very much and maintaining.
It's pretty stable.
Good.
Okay, moving on to financial report, Dr. Joe Sander.
Okay, good evening. We're 7 months through the fiscal year, and so here's our financial snapshot. I do want to point out up there at the top, we have received all of our project year 2017 categorical funding. So last year is complete, paid up, so that is nice. So we're realizing that revenue in this year, so it'll help our bottom line. Also, we have received all of our general state aid payments, and that's based off the evidence-based funding model, which basically kept us at the same rate as last year. This ISB is looking at finishing their data collection so that hopefully the actual funding based off of what tier we fall in can start to take effect hopefully after April, and I'll keep the board informed of how that goes with us. And so what I have listed here is where we are expenses-wise and revenue-wise, and we're tracking from this year's expenses very similar to last year's expenses, and we're looking good on that side. The revenue has come in as anticipated this year, so things are looking really good with that. There's the investment report with our total investments and a breakout of each, and then our insurance report, and we're looking really, really good with our insurance, as I've reported every month during this fiscal year. And then when we get to the individual board committees, we did have a really good insurance committee meeting just this last week, and I'm sure there'll be an update with that. So that's the financial snapshot, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Dr. Sander? Okay. Moving on to the 6.4 board goals update.
Board goals update. This one. All right. Thank you. Well, we went through this a little bit. We go through this twice a year. So this is our first round through with the most recent goals. This slide is just a reminder what the board goals are. This is the one that kind of gives you a little more information. So far, based on our 5 goals, you can see where we are at. So the student success goal, we're about 75% complete. Programs and services, about 85%. Finance, 95%. Facilities, 85%. And communication, 70%. I went through that quickly because there they are. So, student success, what we've completed so far to date, administration will work with the appropriate staff to promote, evaluate, and develop appropriate AP dual credit courses. We're currently working on determining whether we have more to go. At some point in time, we will feel like we have provided enough options. So we are getting near that. When I first came on board 3.5 years ago now, we have made significant strides from that point forward. So we're feeling very confident in what we now offer. We went from near the bottom of the conference as far as what we offer and provide to near the top, which is great. And I think that's good for our students, and I think it's good for their families. So the next thing that we're working on is developing that historical analysis of the data for use to establish future goals. We're still collecting a little bit of data from the first semester, which will come out when we actually go through the student success goal in March. And the last slide on this presentation, I'll give you a goal by goal with a timeline on when I'm going to give you a more detailed report on each individual goal. This truly is just an overview of where we're at to date. Programs and services, We have been able to explore the opportunity for juniors to enroll in the Strong Start program. We did find some interest. It wasn't a tremendous amount, but there are some students who are interested, and we are providing that opportunity if they would like. We're also working to evaluate our current industrial technology programs to provide more opportunities to work with ICC and to strengthen that partnership. ICC is in a state of flux right now, so we are working as best we can with them to continue these programs in a good, efficient manner. We will continue to talk, continue to meet, and continue to have conversations with them on what we can do to better provide for our students who are also their students. We have a tremendous number of kids that go to ICC after they graduate. I think it's well over
50% of a graduating class.
Yeah. So we're a little over 50% of each graduating class. So it is a good partnership for both of us, knowing that we are working with a lot of the same students. We are working with the faculty to implement strategies and practices that we discussed during our book study. This is an ongoing process. Right now, at this point, we are continuing those conversations. We have them every late start, which has been a great addition to what we can provide for our faculty. I know you've heard it in some of the reports from the department chairs. Those late starts are valuable for many reasons, and not least of which is the opportunity for us to have those professional discussions about what strategies are working and what we can do to better improve education within our school. Finance. Finance is in a very good place right now. And what's nice about the finance goal is once you've established it, then it's kind of just the process of going through the year to see, to make sure we get our revenues, to make sure that we're expending within the budget parameters. So FY18 will end with an operating surplus according to what we're seeing. We're well on track to do so. That's what Dr. Sander just discussed. We are still maintaining designated funds within the fund balances to provide resources for future significant foreseeable expenditures. And we talked a little bit about that when we had the hearing right at the beginning, because we do know there are going to be future expenditures. As we continue to grow, we have to be prepared for what comes with that. More students means more money. So we know that as well. And by that, it's both more revenue and more expenditure. The last thing is we maintain a trough plan for the district, which will include identifying point at which the depletion of district fund balances would trigger a recommendation to the Finance Committee. You see this annually as we kind of go through our finance reports, and we will do it again. We'll show you this whole discussion line. It's that line that shows us we are starting on a downward trend. The nice thing about a school district is we truly are more like an aircraft carrier, not a speedboat. We usually have time to respond to issues because we have a budget that goes out annually. We also can see a little bit about what's coming from the state. So if we see an iceberg in the way, we try to start planning on steering way ahead of time. So, facilities, we're in a good place right now. We continue to look for the basics, so we're developing a plan to respond to the growing enrollment. That's a discussion we've had multiple times. We will continue to do so. That's the discussion about providing a new addition for music, renovating the former space that music was in so that we have more classroom space. That's important. We'll continue to work with the Facilities Committee on an annual basis to conduct summer upgrades. That is coming up shortly. We're not quite at that point yet, but we are getting close. So we are starting to build our basic summer needs, because even with the addition work, there will still be things that we have to do within the school in order to keep our facilities where we want them. March and April is the established time frame to select summer projects, so that's why it's still in process. And we have selected a comprehensive maintenance software program for buildings and grounds, and we should be working on getting that fully implemented soon. We've had an interesting year with personnel, so until we were fully staffed, we pretty much had all hands on deck, just making sure that we weren't sinking or leaking or anything like that. Communications. And Anna's here tonight. Mrs. Bradford has done a phenomenal job. She is currently working on a follow-up survey, measuring some readership of the social media and website, and on a school motto tagline to talk more about branding. So we will have that discussion in one of the future meetings. As far as the key messages identified and used, we have done a lot of work in that respect, and I think we've come a long way in the past year. So we are feeling very confident in what we're able to provide now. Here are your detailed report out months. March, we will be discussing student success, and we'll go into more detail just on that goal. April, facilities. May, communications. June, program and services. In July, finance, which falls within the normal discussion point of finance, because usually in July, we're talking about closing out the previous year. So, is there any discussion on that? I went through it quickly because it truly is just an overview so you know where we're at this point. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Looks like you're progressing pretty quickly. Well, I guess not quickly, if half the year is over already, but since we've been working out. So thank you for presenting that.
You're welcome, and thank you.
And the format is very effective.
Yes, yes, that helps. Thank you, Ann. And thank you, Ann, for the help with the presentation. I need to say that publicly.
So going on to board committee reports, I believe the only committee we've had since the last board meeting was finance, and we had two of those, correct? Oh, insurance. Okay. Insurance too.
We had an incredible program presented to us about our health and what's happened this year. It was amazing. Terry was her name, and again, I've forgotten her last name. From
Terry Streeting.
Thank you. She went through, we could see what illnesses people had had, the medications. It was intricate and very, very well done. So, of course, as Dr. Sanders said, we're doing well on health. Everybody's staying well. So that's great. And there may be a possibility of having a holiday 1 month. We're not sure yet. So there you go.
That's something the year of flu, making such a big item all over.
Yeah.
On finance, did anyone want to give a recap of finance?
Do you want me to do it? Since I was there, are you sure you're up to it?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's a good discussion. I think it was some of which preparation for the hearing tonight and the facility move forward with that, which is key not only for the fine arts edition, but I mean, there's a significant amount of classroom refurbishing and expansion. So pretty key for growth on a lot of fronts. Also in preparation for not only the facility, but also on staffing to support said growth in as smartly as possible and financially responsible as possible, recognizing that we're not always going to be on growth. There may be some, on the backside of this, there may be some, what we call a trough, I guess, but in a very slow-moving sort of way. But again, I mean, we're able to look, 5-10 years in the future based on what's coming through the feeder school to get a feel for where things are at. So kind of planning for that as we talk through some of the staffing.
And I will give you a more detailed report on that coming up for the meeting.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to discussion and informational items. 7.1, resignation of Kelsey Knox as food service director, resignation of Scott Foster, new students for internal transfer, resignation of Maggie Mouse, the business teacher. Do you want me to go
I'll touch on them briefly.
Did we vote on the consent agenda?
We're not there yet.
We're on 7.
Oh, okay, sorry.
These are just discussion and informational.
Kelsey's done an outstanding job for the district for food service. We've really appreciated her having her around. Problem when you hire good quality people Sometimes other people poached him, and that's kind of what happened here. She received a good offer that she couldn't pass up. It's really good for her. So we're excited for her, but we hate to see her go. Scott Foster has been the Dean of Students here for 9 years. That's a tremendously long time for being a Dean of Students, and he's asked to step into the classroom, which we are going to administratively transfer him into the driver's ed position, which will be open at the end of the year. We appreciate all that Scott has done in his time. He has truly earned a little breather. So that can be a tough job. It can be highly stressful, and usually people that come in to see the dean are agitated. Just going to leave it at that. Maggie Mose, we hate to see her resignation. There is potential that we may see her again in the future, but for now, she's made a decision that's best for her family, and we respect that and wish the best for Maggie as well.
Moving on to future staffing, Dr. Freeman.
I'll get back out and grab the clicker again. Okay, I feel like I'm getting used to this week, or this month. I don't know what I did. I just turned the channel.
The right button.
Okay, let's do that. And I did it again.
You're the
and
right.
that is
You're
the
the
right button. Am I holding this upside down? I'm going to try them all. So. This is going to be, okay, this is the comedy routine from Dr. Sander and Dr. Freeman. I'll just say click when we're moving on. So the agenda is talk a little bit about the projected enrollment. We do know we have a growing enrollment. We need to talk about our staff flexibility, current load by department, and staffing recommendations. The biggest word that we're going to discuss tonight is capacity. Capacity to take on more students, and how can we do that? So let's talk a little bit about the enrollment. As you can see, what is coming down the pike. Next year we're projecting that we go from 1370 to 1427, the following year 1454 to 1467. By FY22 we're in the 1500s. But you'll note there are 3 years in the 1500s, and then it drops back to the 1450s, okay, and 1400s. What we are trying to do is put together a 3-year plan that will help us staff to this level, to the 1454 level, knowing that if we can support that number of students, we can hopefully make it through the 4 years in the 1467, which shouldn't be a problem, in the 3 years in the 1500, and then drop back into 1450. What we don't want to do is put ourselves in a position where we're hiring more staff than we need. So we don't want to hire somebody and then 3 years later release them. So that's the goal behind this whole plan. All right, we can move forward. Base load, and these are just some general vocabulary words, because we are educators. We love our vocabulary words. So let's start with base load. We'll have a quiz on this one. Teachers have a base load of 5 periods out of a 7-period day. They're also guaranteed either a pack or an overload. An overload would be a 6th period of teaching. Okay? And we usually call that a prep. So the 6th period is an overload. We need to be aware of that, because that overload is the way we can take on more students in a department. But it's also hard on teachers. They need their prep time. They need to be able to spend time to grade papers. And because a good number of English department members are still here, I will say, especially in that department where they have a heavy writing intensive program, taking home 150 papers to grade, by the way, that's 30 on a 5-period day, 30 per class. That's a lot of work. And getting that back to students in a timely fashion is difficult. That's why those prep periods are so important. Overload for PAC Okay, this is another thing that's guaranteed within the contract. The cost of each overload, by the way, is about $3,592. That's per semester. There is a point in time where a department can have so many overloads that you're almost paying the same amount that you would for a new teacher. All right? Adding faculty. A 5-period capacity. When you add a faculty member, you're taking 5 overloads out. So you're adding capacity to that department, and you're also providing an extra person who can also provide an extra overload if needed, or an extra pack. And this is very important. As our student enrollment grows, so do the issues that we have to face through the PAC program. We need more PACs. We need to be able to provide that support for kids. We have found that program to be extremely beneficial. We've studied it a couple of times. We looked at it again last year. It's one thing that I know everybody in this school, all the professionals that you've hired, believe strongly in. So attrition is on the back end. This is something else that will help us when we get past the 1,500 hump, okay? Attrition basically means somebody retires, and instead of rehiring that position, you're able to absorb it. All right? Okay. So, current content areas that we are looking at and the issues that we are facing within them. Let's talk social studies first. We have 7 teachers. This first semester of this year, we had 7 overloads. Second semester, we had 4 overloads. Okay, you can see what the cost is on the back side of that. But the important thing to understand is there's only capacity within the social studies department for 3 more sections. We have 400 freshmen coming in the door. We're going to need more than 3 sections. Okay? Foreign language, and this will be a problem, not as much for this year, but coming soon. We have 5 teachers. Both first semester and second semester, we have 4 overloads. So 4 out of the 5 teachers are already teaching an overload in foreign language. Science, we have 9 teachers. 6 overloads first semester, 7 overloads second semester. English, 11 teachers. 8 overloads, 8 overloads. Math, 11 teachers, 8 overloads and 8 overloads. And then PE, we have 6 teachers with 4 overloads and 3 overloads. Now, we have a resolution for all of this, and so we'll move on, and we'll talk a little bit about that. What can we do? Well, one of the things you didn't see up there was special ed. Special ed is its own machine. It solely depends on the number of IEPs that come in and caseloads. We're legally bound to that. And so special ed, we are going to need to hire a new teacher next year. And a couple things that I want to point out. This year, we have 9 full-time, that's what FTE stands for, full-time equivalent, and 1 part-time special ed teacher. We have 108 IEPs this year. Next year, 121, which puts us over our capacity limit for that department. 125 the following year, 140 the year after that, 145 the year after that. That's a lot of increase very quickly. Tied to that are the 504 plans. They're similar but not the same. 504 students have issues that need to be supported in the classrooms, and they have legal rights to those supports. So we're going to go from 24 504s to 61 504s in 3 years. That's a huge jump. That's a huge jump. So we have to have the personnel who can oversee to make sure that the 504s are being followed. We also have to have the people who can ensure that they understand how to write 504s and how to review 504 plans as the year goes on. All legal mandates. Okay? Counseling. The counseling department eventually is going to run into some trouble. They already are struggling. We have 4 counselors with 1,370 students. Next year we go to 1,427. The year after that, 1,454. 4 people to work with 1,300 1,400 students. And we've seen issues this year. We have seen issues this year. We've discussed them at this table. We know that they're coming. What the kids are dealing with now are becoming more severe. And we are going to ask for more counselors, but we'll show how that all feathers in as we go. Dean, we have the same problem. We have 2 deans covering 1,370 kids. It'll be 1,400 kids next year. And our most senior dean just resigned. So we're going to be looking at a brand new person to this school district probably, because I haven't seen an in-house applicant yet, which means we're going to bring somebody in that's new, and we have a dean that's been here a year and a half. Those are things that we're going to have to be able to support. We'll move. Thank you. So here would be the recommendation that we see at this point. And I do have a number slide that I'll show you right after this. For FY19, we need to replace a science teacher who's retiring, an English teacher who's retiring, a dean of students, full-time RTI teacher, driver's ed's taken care of with the dean of students flop. Okay? What we're recommending is hiring a special education teacher, a social studies teacher, part-time RTI, which will also help to govern and help oversee 504s. That position can also evaluate up to 5 staff members, because another problem that's sitting out there is we need to reshuffle the deck on who's doing the evaluating. Part-time dean, and we have a good way to cover that. What we're basically looking for is somebody who can come in maybe 2 days a week and work with attendance issues, tardies, unexcused absences. That takes up a tremendous amount of time, but it's relatively simple in nature. It's not your usual, something went wrong, now I have to investigate and talk to 30 people. It's, you were late, you know what the consequence is, thank you. So it's having that discussion with kids and making sure that you build those connections and make sure that they know people are actually watching whether or not you're at school. So that's important. FY20, this is for next year, this will be for the following year. Spanish teacher, science teacher, counselor. Because the capacity in those 3 subject areas are going to hit next. We're going to feel the weight of that. We do have 2 special ed teachers that are retiring and 1 family consumer science teacher. The reason that's important is financial, and I will explain it better on the next slide. And then FY25 or 21, English teacher, math teacher, we need to hire new, and we also have an English teacher and a math teacher retiring. So that year we'll need to hire 2 English, 2 math. Okay? All right. I do have a slide in there somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Give me 1 second. Technical difficulties.
Stop loading.
Okay. Well, I did.
I think I can bring it up.
By the way, I did send that to everybody. Hopefully you had a chance to see it. It kind of outlines what I was talking about with the wash. Because when you're replacing somebody who is retired, the person you're bringing in is going to be a little less expensive than the person who is leaving. So I do want to explain a couple things on that slide when it comes up, just so you have a good feel for where we're at.
There it is.
There it is. So
There you go.
we took and compared what it would take to replace and to bring in the new staff for next year with our recommendation. We'd actually save about $9,650. It'll cost less, even though we are hiring more people. The following year, it will actually cost more, about $23,000. And the year after that, it will cost more again at about $4,000. But remember, in these 3 years, we go from 1427 to after this year, 1517. We've just increased almost 100 kids. And we haven't hired anybody new since we have, but just 2,
This past year.
just this past year.
Yeah. 3.
3. We hired
Math,
3 this past year,
3.
but we've increased in enrollment over 200 kids. Now show me where 3 teachers can teach 200 kids. So we still have a little way to go before we're running at a better full strength. And that's why I bring that up, because you need to be aware of that. Total estimated cost over the 3 years should be about $18,000. And that includes 7 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. Okay? Now, that's the general presentation. The next slide says questions. So,
Dr. Freeman,
Let's
that
talk.
is assuming the same basic class size, which varies, I know, by like special ed versus a regular classroom. So basically the class size that we're using now.
yes, and we're multiplying that at about 28 and 30.
We would like to drop the English, when you ask them to do the writing load that they have, we've had to bump them to a 30 in past years, and we would like to bump them back down to a 28 max.
I agree.
It is, with the writing and grading load they have.
And then the other question I had, and I don't think this is going to be a serious issue yet, but I see it coming down the pipe. I do not see enrollment increasing in teacher education at our colleges and universities.
No.
Which means Peoria already is seeing the teacher shortage. Washington, District 308 is still a very nice place to teach, attractive place to teach. So we get some good candidates. And I think that will continue for the near future. But do you see the teacher shortage impacting that down the road?
It could. And I'll be honest with you, that's a concern throughout the region. The superintendents in this region have been discussing this for the last couple of years. It's starting to hit the board level. I know the principals have met, and when they've talked about it, it's the same concern. We are going to be in a place at some point where there are more openings than there are teachers.
Oh, and I also am concerned at the college level, university, of I don't want to see standards lowered to increase the number of teachers available,
True.
because that's counterproductive too. So to keep that level up of qualified teachers and still have the number is an issue at the college level.
It is, but I think we try to do our part here too. Trying to talk to students as they are trying to figure out what career they want to go into. And I do think that our staff sells itself. There may be a day we have to get more active and start looking at grow your own type programs, where we see kids who are going through our halls that might make excellent teachers, and talking to them about it and providing incentive for them to come back to the school. There may be a day where we need to do some of that, and it may be coming more quickly than we think.
Another question with the talk about the grading and so on, and when I look at the current load, core content area slide, English has 11 teachers and they have 8 overloads each semester, and that costs, the total overload cost is $57,480. I wonder, and I just thought of this tonight, not at committee, sorry, but it occurs to me, wouldn't it almost make sense to hire an English teacher next year, because then you wouldn't lose a lot of money if you're already paying all that overload, right? So the cost would be relatively negligible, and then at the same time you would be reducing their load.
I'm going to give you 2 responses. The first response would be the politically correct response, which is what we did when we developed this was try to develop something that we felt was very reasonable, the most cost effective, and yet still providing us the opportunity to keep the programming we have in place. Here's the other way of saying it. If you want to add more teachers to that as a board, we'll take them.
I mean, I don't mean to put us in a bad spot, but I just look at how much it does cost for an overload, and honestly, math is the same thing. Math is at 57,480 as well. And I mean,
We also base this a bit on class size and average
Yeah.
class size. There is room to grow in English based on their average class size right now, and we actually have a teacher who's out 1 hour a day who is shadowing RTI. So we actually have a buffer in there that we can, in English, that's why we could make it a couple more years. Their class sizes are not all sitting at 30, is what I'm saying. They
Right.
actually have lower class sizes. So that was the other component, overload in class size, where Spanish is sitting right now with Spanish 1 at a class size average of 25.5. That's why it was more of a priority than English at this point.
So we did feather all that in as we put this together. What can we handle? What is our capacity?
I do like that you put together, try to define it, show out to all of us that, you know, you put a lot of time and effort into it, and it takes a little bit of time to digest what you've had. I know some
It
board
does.
members might have just seen it for the first time tonight, so it was in finance committee, so you will get catch up. But
Dr. Freeman, just one question. The last slide you showed where the salary offsets, for lack
Yes.
of a better word, does that include the reduction in overload? Or is that?
This
not
is
going
just,
forward?
honestly, I tried to keep it simple. This is a base comparison. The retiree salary, benefits, TRS, and a new teacher coming in, salary, benefits, TRS.
Okay. So there's the cost of the personnel
Mhm.
changes, and then do we think it will result in fewer overloads?
Yes,
So that there's an additional savings built in that we don't even see up there?
there is. There is. And I consider that kind of the buffer zone. That's the protection in case something shows up we weren't expecting.
Because there's another, I think in the bullet, or the bubble, it said it's probably another 10, 15 per year student increase beyond the
Yeah.
number. So I think this allows some headroom on flexibility without constraining ourselves on the backside of that bubble.
And that's been pretty standard. What I've done is I've gone back about 10 years with our enrollment projections and taken a look at it. And we actually under-project by about 10 to 15 students for all 4 classes for the high school itself each year, because we have that many kids that are moving in right now. And they're still moving in right now. That's the other thing we need to be aware of. Last year, when I did the enrollment projection, there was 1 year with 1,500 students. This year, we did the 6-day enrollment projections. There are 3. So we are still seeing growth. It isn't as fast as it was. I don't know that we'll see a 10 to 15 student increase. And that's why I kind of like keeping a little bit of protection in there, because I don't want to overstaff too quickly. Because I do think that this is a good starting point. This gives us something to look at, so we're looking into the future. But I also think this is evolutionary, and we look at it again next year, it may look a little bit different based on the new figures we get from 6-day.
and the other cost that we're saving that we don't see is we'll get more for daily student attendance as well. But that comes in,
Yeah.
as you know, so it takes some time to roll in, a couple of years.
Do you see value, though, of kind of planning it out on this
Yes.
curve as opposed, and I look at it and I think that 17 new employees in 2 years, right? That's a lot to onboard and change and a lot.
It is.
It's just a lot. And it doesn't mean we can't reevaluate that as we go through this process, but there does have to be, I think, a little bit of an allowance for figuring out how we're going to get this done on a well-planned, consistent basis.
And that's this is our first slide with that. This is our first opportunity to sit down and really look at staffing projected out and what we think our needs are. You know, one of the things I talked about was PE and capacity there. Well, there have been some legal changes, and I've actually talked to the PE department about this as well. It used to be, and you may recall, we went through a discussion about waivers for marching band. It was a small discussion that went on for a couple months. But we did have a good discussion on that, and ended up coming up to a solution to where 12th, 11th, and 10th grade students can apply for a waiver from PE if they're a marching band during the first semester. Well, at the same time, it used to be in school code that only 12th graders and 11th graders could apply for a waiver for athletics. Well, they just recently changed that. So now it includes sophomores and freshmen as well. So one of the things that we'll be talking to the policy committee about in the near future is changing our policy to include sophomores for athletic waivers. That will provide a little bit of reprieve in the PE classes, may be able to lower their numbers a little bit, and it still gives us the opportunity, if we need to, into the future, drop that down to the freshman level. Because I will tell you, you know that the kids that are in athletics, if they're out for, I mean, look at our sports. If you're out for cross country, you're getting a workout. If you're out for football, you're getting a workout. Volleyball, basketball. Our sports are active sports. I'm a big fan of the Olympics. I did enjoy watching curling. I don't see that quite as active as the sports that we offer. So, and sorry, I hope I didn't offend anybody with that. Anyway, that's where we are. So we do have some opportunity to protect the PE department a little bit there with their numbers and still provide capacity that'll help us get through the 1500s.
I had, well, one comment, which I think that this looks like a good plan. We're being cautious about it, you know, and if we need more, we need more. What, I don't understand the 2 part-time teachers. Is that just for the 1 year then to kind of get us over the?
That'll take us through at least 4 years.
Okay. So
Okay, they'll be here, and the goal is, you know, 1, it'll give us a little extra support for the dean's office, but 2, in both cases, I'm also trying to get some new evaluators in, because each evaluation that we do on a staff member takes 10 to 12 hours, and to be quite frank, the business director is doing 17 evaluations this year. That's 170 hours that we could be doing business-related stuff. We need to make some changes to get that a little more efficient too.
Which I think it's a great idea to bring them in part-time until we really know where we're going to be.
That's the big ticket item, and it is a good way to bring them in with support. We actually, the 2 people that we would be looking at are both in-house now and would be easy moves, transitions into place. Both of them would also be retirees, which brings its own plus. So if we get to a point where we feel like that's not enough support, then we talk about extending that out to a full-time
So they aren't potential
position.
full-time people?
No.
Anyway, okay, they might just be some.
Any other questions? Here's the one thing I would like to be able to do. I'd like to be able to sit down with Heather tomorrow and post those positions for next year. We're not going to post 3 years out. But bear in mind, the only action that needs to happen from the board would be approving the actual hire. The posting is simply saying we have a potential opening. If you're okay with that, I'd like to do that tomorrow.
I think that would be a good idea, especially since you mentioned there could be a teacher shortage.
And the sooner the better.
The sooner the better.
Postings.
And that's what drove a lot of the conversations that Mrs. Stevens and I had, was knowing that we were up against a timeline and we needed to get some forward motion on this fairly quickly. So, okay, that's the plan. Please feel free to talk to me if you have any questions about it. We can post. We'll try to get people in as quickly as possible and meet, but there's still the option for the board if you feel like you need more time to think about it, to let me know that too.
So you'll be posting for what were the 4?
Social studies, special ed, those 2. Those are the big 2.
So really, okay.
Just the 2 for now.
But you'll also be doing the replacement hiring, I think, as well? Looking
Yes,
for those
we're currently working on that now. We have openings posted for science, English, and dean of students. So, and I will tell you, we're already seeing the impact. I will tell you, we are already seeing the impact on the amount of teachers that are out there. So,
Thank you for doing this and putting it in this format. It's a lot, for me as a board member, it's a lot easier to kind of get my mind around what we're trying to do. And it's nice to see it so well thought out and explained and fully supported.
well, I will try to keep that 3 years in advance for as long as you have me around. So that's all I can promise. So, okay. If there are no other questions. Okay. I have a couple other talking points, but I can do those from over here.
I think you like it up there.
I get to use it.
As long as you don't have to use it. As long as you don't have to use it.
I don't want the clicker again. It wasn't real nice to me.
You're on a 3 order.
So the future staffing will be moving on to 7.5, which is the PE waivers, which you just started to talk about a little bit. Do you want to elaborate further on that, or?
Well, I think I pretty much hit the gist of it. If anybody has any questions about that. And I did have a good conversation with our PE department chair. Yeah, and we have till next month is when we would.
And you talked to the whole department as well?
Yes,
You met the whole department.
actually, yes. They met this morning. We had a staff meeting. And, they were a target of opportunity. They were sitting together in a group, so I hit them all at once.
Would that come into effect next year?
Yes.
So that would affect their schedules? possibly?
Yes.
That's why we kind of need to
Policy
move on that
committee,
one.
Yes.
probably, is policy committee thinking about that?
Soon.
Okay.
You'll be seeing that coming out
All
too.
right.
Moving on to 7.6, lacrosse, I think Meg Sutherland and Beth Martinez came last month and presented to us, and I know that we were going to have a little bit of discussion about that.
Yes, one of the things that we've talked about off and on is the potential for bringing in lacrosse. And Mr. Noblock and I have sat and talked about it a number of times. And I'm going to lay this out there pretty straightforward. We know that it's coming. The question is how soon. I know that they would like to see it next year, but I also know that there were some questions in finance, and what I'd like to do is take a minute just to kind of figure out what kind of information you would need from us. What do we need to dig up to help you make a decision about when and whether or not to bring lacrosse in as a sport? What would you like from us?
But we'd have to know how many people are
Interested?
interested in.
Okay.
Which I think that would be a pretty, that is a pretty big.
I think
across
what
the community. I think we'd have a team in place pretty quickly.
I mean, right now, the general interest, I mean, I can get you updated numbers. I know last year we had enough interest for a boys and girls team. I'm assuming that it's going to be the same. It may actually grow a little bit.
And we have the support staff in the busing for the games, the scheduling, all of those coming out of our athletic department.
That will be something we have to look at. That could be interesting. I'm typing the notes as you can.
And how many people are trained to really coach lacrosse?
In our staff,
In our staff.
we have one that's currently working it.
And then I know that there's been some discussion previously about how difficult it is to schedule, but I'm wondering if that's improved or if we've got any alternatives.
We do know this. Dunlap ended up picking it up as an IHSA sport. We know that it's under discussion at Notre Dame. The Bloomington normal schools are talking about a co-op over there. There's another co-op being discussed in Springfield. And I want to say there are two more that are in the general area, but don't hold me to that. And as Herb has talked to their ADs, what they have said is, if you go, we'll go.
Would ours be a co-op?
Ours would be,
with
we
more
would
than-
start out a co-op for sure. I think that right now, that was the general plan, to talk about co-oping with Morton and Metamora. I don't know how long it would stay a co-op, but for the beginning. We do think that eventually the Middle Illini is going to pick this up, and I don't know if it'll be every school.
And I guess that's part of the discussion with scheduling it. There's a range of approaches you could take to scheduling, from trying to play, a couple times a week to playing once every 3 weeks or something like that. I mean, let's not let the unusual scheduling piece of this keep us from doing something we should do because there's enough kids who are interested in it.
Okay.
Well, and it's my understanding that there's a potential to possibly have one weekend to hit several games, maybe on a Saturday or something, so like you said, it may be really spaced out.
A tournament
Yeah,
structure.
right, exactly.
As far as conferences, is lacrosse different, how many games they have to play in conference, or they don't even have to have a conference? They can go statewide?
They don't have to have a conference, and right now, we wouldn't even qualify.
So that wouldn't inhibit?
No. I think they'd be an independent, but you would probably talk to some of the suburban teams. There are a lot of them up there. And like you said, I mean, if you can go up to Chicago twice and play 8 games in 2 weekends, 6 is the minimum to qualify for IHSA. And if Dunlap's down the road, there are 2 easy ones. And if we can get a couple other teams to pick it up, there are a few more, and talk about even hosting a tournament. I think there are options there to put a schedule together. In a perfect world, that schedule would be a Middle Illini schedule where we're traveling to such long destinations as Morton and Metamora and East Peoria. Difficult drives, but this will probably be more like, we'll have to travel a little bit for this one.
Well, they do have that in May. I think it's in May every year where a lot of come here, so that would be.
Yeah, and I do think we have to allow for the fact that we do a fair amount of traveling as our other teams now. I mean, wrestling's in Chicago and Ohio and Minnesota. Yeah, so, I mean, we can figure out a way to make this work if we've got the numbers for the kids that are interested.
So how long would the season be? How long?
That, it's a
Spring
great question.
season.
It's a spring season, so
So what other sports would
Spring,
overlap? That's what I'm wondering.
baseball, girls,
Track.
soccer, track,
The girls' soccer is the main one that would be using the field.
softball.
No, I mean, like the
Yeah.
turf.
Yes.
'Cause they
Well,
do
and we talked about potential other,
other venues, right?
well, we have the lower soccer field, for example. And there are a few questions out there about where do you put them, because one of the things that I do know they want, that we would have to put in place for safety purposes, we'd have to put a big like backstop screen along the north side of the football field, so balls aren't hitting things like the Pantherplex or landing on the baseball diamond, because they can. These balls really sail. We'd also need one on the south side, because we do have girls' tennis going, or boys' tennis. Girls is in the fall, boys is in the spring. So boys' tennis is going on at that time too. So those are fairly significant expenses. And that might hamper where we start this program. It may be one of those deals where right now, they do a lot of their practicing and working at Oak Ridge. We may just say, you know what, for the time being, we'll work out a deal with the Park District. We'll start there. We'll have a game or two under the lights, but for the most part, you're going to have to be out there until we can get the infrastructure covered on that.
I would be interested in, I mean, essentially, there's a list of things that administratively you guys will have to do, you or Joe. And so, I mean, it seems like since we're probably going to do this anyway in a year or two or however long, just a list of what you would have to do. And then administratively, I mean, you guys are going to be moving to a new curriculum. I mean, you're finishing that book, the curriculum book, so there's a new curriculum approach that'll be coming, I assume. And you guys are going to be doing construction in the fall, so that's a big load. Any construction project puts a burden on administrators. So I would just not want to see administrators overburdened trying to do too much all at once. So, what you see administratively having to do and, how difficult that would be. Because taking on, this is a huge program. I mean, you compare it to wrestling, but wrestling doesn't have as many as this, I think, probably. There's a lot of people in this, a lot of equipment. It's significant, and I would just hate to see, I would like enough time to make sure it ramps up properly, and that we get it right from the start and not have a rough start with it. because they have a good program going. You'd hate to take something on board and we'll own it at that point and not do it as well as they do it.
So in other words, lay the groundwork for it.
Yeah, and make sure that we have, the administrators have the time to do that.
Isn't this primarily the athletic department would be handling this?
Yes and no, because of what we just talked about with construction, what we're talking about with transportation, there'll be a lot of administrative time put in it. And I appreciate what Mr. Fisher is saying, because I do have to say, right now the priority is taking care of the internal space. And that's really where we need to focus our time and energy, because I do think we can get off kilter, and I don't want to spread things out to the point where we aren't getting everything done that we need to for that. That has to be our number one. So not to slow them down, but also to say, look, there are only so many of us. We're okay with proceeding with this, but you have to go on a timeline.
Well, and, I mean, it's really, they have a program that they love, that works really well. I would hate to take it and then have a whole year of, potential not working as well, because we tried to rush it too much. It's just.
Would you be able to work on some of those questions that shouldn't take a whole lot of time?
No.
And maybe send it out to us in an email so that we can see what you found out to answer some of our questions. And if we think of more, we may think of more later.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else we need to add for him on that? Just give us some time to look at that and give you a little bit of time to work with her and see.
Well, I didn't want to get too far into this year without having this discussion and really start to, we're at the point where we need to seriously discuss what we want to do here. So.
Well, they've been very patient, and they came to it much earlier with a very thoroughly prepared program for us, and something they want to do. I just think it's a question of when. If we're going to do it, it needs to be done right. And I think the points made here were very valid points about taking it slowly and carefully.
Well, they're good people, and we don't want to discourage them or upset them. We want them to know that we're
where we're at.
Yeah, where we are, and that we're seriously having conversations about it, because we are. It's more along the lines of how much can we do at once.
Okay, moving on to other. Is there any other?
This is probably out of line, but getting back to wanting to repost this position, should we make a motion to do that tonight?
You don't.
You don't need to do that?
You don't need to. The action actually comes when you vote.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, as long as I know the board's okay with me posting, we're good, because it's kind of like the bidding process. Hiring is like bidding. You can always reject all the bids.
Okay.
You can always look at me and say, well, no, we're not going to hire anybody. So you do have that ability as a board.
Any other? Okay, I think we can move on to the consent agenda. Let's see, we've got a lot of items here. 8.11, the regular board meeting minutes of January 16th, 2018. 8.12, the Finance Committee meeting minutes of January 25th, 2018. 8.13, the Finance Committee meeting minutes of February 7th, 2018. 8.14, the Executive Session meeting minutes of January 16th, 2018. Bills, 8.2, and then 8.3, reimbursement of coursework.
I move acceptance of the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on any of those minutes, meetings, bills, and what was the last thing? Reimbursement for coursework. Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
McNutt?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, thank you. Moving on to action items, and this is the personnel, 9.4 9.11 certified person, certified employment. Can I do all of these? Okay. 9.11A for Ashley Neal, school psychologist. 911B, approved employment of Kelly Jo Sutherland, long-term math sub. 911C, approved employment of Abby Johnson, long-term math sub.
Okay, real quick version on this. The school psychologist position is a township position. That's the new psychologist that we need to hire for next year. The 2 math subs are actually staggering so that we can cover a leave.
Is that school psychologist, is that an additional school psychologist? Or is that replacing someone?
Well, remember we had the school psych, we had 2 psychologists last year that resigned. We rehired one, and then we rehired another position to try to cover that, and then what they found was they really need that other psychologist to do the testing and needs for the township. So it's a replacement of a previous psychologist position.
So, but we're not short another psychologist after this.
You know, we should have 3, that should be, my understanding is, from talking with the other superintendents, that should cover it for a while. So,
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the recommendations under the action item 9.11A, 911B, and 911C for certified employment as presented?
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Fisher,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Knopfinger.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries. 9.2, approve student and adult breakfast price for the 2018-19 school year. And that's just,
9.1.2.
oh, did I miss one? Oh, there we go. We went from 1 to 2, but there's 9.12. Sorry about that. 9.12, non-certified employment, approved employment of food service director. That would be important. So we can raise the prices on them.
Which will do that?
Okay, so let me see here, where'd that go?
Done.
Actually, Dr. Sander did a lot of work on that. He can give you a little background.
Okay.
Yes, I gladly accept a recommendation and a motion to approve this. Otherwise, I'm going to have to work in the cafe. And I really don't want to do that. I could do it, I'm certified, but anyway, we had a very short turnaround. And so if I seem a little edgy, it's because we've had a short turnaround on trying to get this position filled. We really did have some fantastic candidates that put in for it. And so Laura McHugh Newport is the one that we're bringing to the board. I got her approval today. That's how short this has been. She's excited about coming on. She's got plenty of experience in the food service business at the college level. And so she's going to have a little bit of a upswing on training at the high school or public school level. But there's no doubt in my mind her qualifications are just outstanding.
Do we have our food service director from 2 ago that retired? actually?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'd be remiss without mentioning good people. Pam Madden was back. She started on Friday so that she could learn what she's missed over the last 2.5 years. And so she hit the ground running today. And then, just because timing is everything, we have a honor roll breakfast that she's got to get prepared for on Friday, and then the next Friday. And so, but I couldn't say enough about Pam. She is truly just a true professional and an all-star, and she's going to help us get through this point if we can get this one hired.
And will she be helping to train this new one?
Kelsey did say that she would be willing to help out with some transition for Ms. Newport coming on board. And so I think she's going to be a quick study. She's going to pick things up. She's already gotten into the regs and started researching it. she's very familiar with our website, what items that we had on, so I was informing her of the increase in breakfast prices, and she said, I already know about it because I was reading about it on the agenda. And so we're excited to have that. You know, we will have some training that has to go along, and we're entering the banquet season as well, so we've got a lot of different types of events coming on. But she's got experience in all of that.
It's a very important decision.
It really is.
What the kids eat.
And the staff.
And the staff.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation under action item 9.12A for Laura Newport for the non-certified employment as presented?
Move.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Knopfinger? Yes. Fisher?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
Moving on to 9.13, leave of absence request. Approve the request to extend leave of absence for Karen Cotton. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation under action item 9.13A for leave of absence?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Essing?
Yes.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yeah.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 9.2, approve the student and adult breakfast price for the 2018-19 school year.
One of the last things I had Kelsey do is kind of look at the breakfast prices. The lunch prices, we made some changes last year, and we're good for the next school year with our current lunch prices. But one of the items that we haven't changed in a number of years, and that's the cost for breakfast. Kelsey ran a report, and she said the typical breakfast costs between $1.20 and $1.80. And our current price for breakfast is $1.40. So what she was recommending, what she would have recommended, is to increase that by a dime to $1.50. It's pretty good breakfast for $1.50.
Is there a large number of students that eat breakfast?
Oh, yeah. I should know these numbers right offhand, but I'm willing to bet it's more than 100 kids go through and pick up breakfast in the mornings.
Is there a motion to approve the student and adult breakfast price of $1.50 for the 2018-19 school year as recommended?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
I might. Motion carries. Now we're moving on to approve the 2018-19 school calendar. Dr. Freeman showed us last month what he was intending in the other districts. There weren't any changes, correct?
We have no changes.
Is there a motion to accept the 2018-2019 school year calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Butler?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 9.4, resolution declaring the intent to issue bonds to the district for the purpose of increasing the working cash fund of the district.
Just the top sentence there in the action.
Okay,
It's all in there. Everybody can read it.
I'll just read that. Okay. The recommendation is that WCHS Board of Education approve the resolution declaring the intent of issue $3.35 million working cash funds as presented. Is there a motion to approve the resolution declaring the intent to issue $3,500,000 working cash fund bonds?
Is this from the Finance Committee?
Second.
If it came from the finance committee, we'll do a motion in a second.
I would go ahead and do it just for all the paperwork. I think that they need a.
Okay.
Chris. Yeah.
Okay, and roll call, please.
Ward?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Knopfinger.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
McNutt.
Yes.
Motion carries. 9.5, approve special meeting date.
Okay, everybody seemed okay with the 20th to meet with the engineering firms.
What time did that start, did you say?
5, 6, and 7. Did anybody have an issue with
Are we
that?
taking an hour for each? Do we do that for the last one?
It was about 45 minutes in each, of you get a little
Or- Okay, I just want to
in between, to kind of shift them out, move the next group in.
Brian's making copies.
Okay.
And this doesn't require a roll call, just do voice vote.
Okay. All those in favor of the approving, oh,
This is which day, sorry?
the 20th of
February 20th.
February at 5 PM to 7. Well, which one?
What's that?
It's a Tuesday.
Yes, we had to move it to the 20th, not everybody was available on the 21st,
And the day of the week is?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
17.
Is everyone able to?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, we will plan on that, we'll double check with the engineering firms to make sure they can all make it, but they've been calling, so I think they'll probably. Just need a motion in a second, and then just voice.
Is there a motion to approve the special meeting for the 20th of February at 5 PM?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say. All right, motion carries. Executive session.
Joel, can I just,
Yes,
one
sure.
thing, just to make, we didn't talk about the bond thing at all, but just to make sure that the audience understood it, that we're not actually bonding 3.5 right now, we're just opening up the possibility that we can bond up to $3.5 million.